Let's unpack these problems that are facing South Africa, like the energy crisis now. Earlier this week, President Cyril Ramaphosa cancelling his trip to Davos to attend this year's annual World Economic Forum meeting in order to stay in the country and solve the utilities problems. We don't know if it has yielded any results. As far as I know, I haven't seen any announcement about the outcomes of that emergency meeting just the other day. Now, do we lack strong leadership, or it's an issue of a lack of fresh ideas? Let's discuss this and other issues with political commentator Justice Malala. Justice, good afternoon, South African time. Welcome to today, and thank you very much to talking to us. It's so good just to get your sense of what is happening. We read quite a lot about what you pen around the ills of our country here. But when it comes to the energy crisis, one of the biggest questions I have, Justice, in my mind is, how did we get here?
Oh, it's very easy, but then to get to how we got here. We got here because in 1998, an expert panel went off to President Nelson Mandela at the time, Deputy President Thabo Mbeki at the time, and the entire cabinet, and said, guys, in 2007, you're going to have electricity blackouts. The politicians said, no, we're going to keep going. And I have to say this, President Mandela's government did extraordinary things. They said, we're going to give electricity to the people. They didn't stop and say, where is it going to come from? Because it doesn't just fall from the sky. That was the beginning. In 2007, lo and behold, you and I were covering the Polokwane conference of the ANC and no electricity. That was the beginning of the blackouts. And we've been in this situation since. The ANC, from 2008, 2009 onwards, did nothing to obviate the problem. Then we started building Kusile and Medupi, but those projects were essentially cash cows for well-connected people. And quite frankly, it was more corruption than build and generate electricity. And it got worse under the Zuma administration, and it's gotten even worse under the Ramaphosa administration. So now, I have to agree with Bagodi. This is an ANC problem. This is an ANC mess. As Mavuso said last year when she walked out of parliament, you can't blame anyone else. We know very clearly how we got here.
You wrote an opinion piece just the other day, I think it was yesterday, where you were saying basically the Minister of Mineral Resources and Energy, Gwede Mantashe, got what he wanted at Eskom, but he cannot fix what's broken.
He can't, because how is he in any way different from the energy ministers that have come before him? How is he in any way different to the boards that have been elected again and again? We have a political problem. We have a governance problem. We don't have a professionalism problem. The big issue here is that at the end of the day, Gwede Mantashe goes into that institution, will begin throwing his weight about, but he doesn't know. Just as his predecessor didn't know, what they're talking about. The key issue for politicians, for Mr. Mantashe, for whom I have a lot of respect actually, is to set the parameters, set the goal, initiate the policy, and let the professionals at Eskom get on with the job. The problem is that Eskom was seen as, oh, you know, we've got to achieve this and do that politically, and it got its eye off the ball. It's become a political football. So there are two problems with Mr. Mantashe's imminent overseeing of Eskom. One, he doesn't have the expertise, he doesn't have the nous to do it. Secondly, and key to this, instead of a board led by Mpoma appointed 3 months ago saying, this is how we're fixing Eskom, you have Gwede Mantashe saying, this is how I'm fixing Eskom. So between now and the end of March, when Andre De Ruyter leaves, quite frankly, Mpoma and his new board are sitting there saying, are we listening to Pravin Gordhan, who hasn't said anything so far, or are we listening to Gwede Mantashe, who is going about giving interview after interview? Who does the board report to. And we don't know that. And that is a fundamental problem. It means all this time, nothing is happening as they wait to see who they're going to report to.
And the reality, sadly, Justice, is that even when you resolve the reporting lines, the mess of Eskom is so deep and so big, it's going to take a lot of time and many years to fix it, but it will require strong, decisive leadership. One would have hoped that Cyril Ramaphosa, after the latest ANC's conference where he won a resounding victory, retaining his presidency, he'll be moving more decisively now compared to the past. But he's not.
Absolutely not. He's got 66%, by my count, about 66% support in the NEC, at the very least, 66% support in the NEC. He's got the support of the top 7 of the ANC. He's master and commander, but he doesn't do what his mentor, Nelson Mandela, did when he faced crises. He doesn't take charge and do it. So at the moment, the country is looking at, I mean, in my article, as you said much earlier, there I am pointing at Mantashe, but quite frankly, who's the culprit here? It's the president of the country who, let's not forget, President Ramaphosa came to power in 2018, February. So in 5 years, he will still make, at the State of the Nation speech next month, the same promises that he made in 2018. Just stop and think about that. How long does it take to change a light bulb in South Africa? President Cyril Ramaphosa, just by his stasis, by just waiting, essentially says 5 years and more, probably 10, probably 15. So unfortunately, the big issue here, Braden, is that the country faces an existential crisis. And that is because without electricity, your business right now, the many businesses by small business people all over South Africa will suffer and may die. And we will know why that happened. It's because of the mess that we've been placed in by politicians over the past 23 years of the Eskom crisis.
Yeah, many small businesses are struggling, shutting down. I mean, if you run a small ice cream business in Soweto or Katleong or Soshanguve or Garankuwa or wherever, you cannot survive unless you've got alternative means of power, which will, in their own as well, be expensive. And if these businesses, small and medium, are suffering and closing down, that means more job losses.
Absolutely. You know, the global picture economically is not looking great. The picture on our continent, Africa, is not looking great. In South Africa, all this, and in Southern Africa, all this is complicated even further, and it's worsened by the electricity crisis. So if you stop and say, what are the challenges that we face? We face the challenge of massive unemployment, nearly 35% unemployment. Youth unemployment at the official figure of 59.8%. If you just step back and say, how do we absorb all these beautiful, brilliant graduates, these brilliant matriculants into employment? How can we do it when we don't have electricity to power the factories, to power the startups that many people are thinking about? We have a problem here, and it's leading further and further. And people have forgotten what Thabo Mbeki said just 6 months ago when he said we face our own Arab Spring. And these are not empty warnings. These are warnings that we should take very seriously, because today it might be a small business is shutting down, but that small business becomes 5 people who don't have a job. 5 people who don't have a job are out on the street, and 5 people start saying, well, what is this for? And that's when the match is lit. And that's when we have conflagration. This is not a joke, and I think our politicians need to think very seriously about what we're going through. You spoke about leadership, Braden. I think for me the key thing is this: where is the Minister of Public Enterprises in this situation? Where is the President of the country? Because you have a crisis. and we are not dealing with it. When we faced COVID, he went on television and spoke to the people. When we faced other crises, he stood up and spoke to the people. This hiding, this lack of communication, this not taking questions from the media tells you that there is no plan. And quite frankly, if there is no plan, then South Africans in general, we are all in big, big trouble.
And you referred to him. Thabo Mbeki also said recently, speaking at an ANC meeting, that there is no plan. Where is this plan? Thank you very much for your time and insights. That's Justice Malala, political commentator, just giving us some of his views this afternoon here on Today. He was talking to us from New York. Now,